3 of Major League Rugby brings us back to Houston, the crown jewel of rugby in the state of Texas. The matchup tonight, the SaberCats defending their home pitch against the expansion side, Old Glory DC. First ever meeting between these two sides. Mr. Windsor and company set to go. Let's take a look at the big picture in Major League Rugby. This is as of today coming into this third week. Of course, San Diego, Toronto, and expansion side Atlanta all unblemished so far, perfect 2-0. Meanwhile, both Houston and Old Glory with 5 points. A chance to make a move today up the table. On that note, welcome into the broadcast booth, everyone. Lincoln Rose along with Kit McConico. And Kit, already week 3, already a lot of storylines, including the fact that both these teams, a similar finish last week. Oh, how close Houston could be. How close? That close to being 2-0. Conversely, Old Glory was able to get the ball held up to find its first win at home. 2
big finishes last week. Both these teams sitting on 5 points, both looking for a big victory tonight. 2 very similar teams. Anticipate a great matchup.
Take a look at your keys to the matchup. First up, we talk about home field advantage at AVEVA. What a home this has been for Houston. What do they need to do to get back on the winning track?
Well, to get back on the winning track, they need a quicker start. Last week, they fell to Toronto 27-22, but they were down 17-0 in the first 16 minutes, ultimately unable to battle back and discipline. That was an issue last week. Their outside center, Tion Lutz, sent to the bin. A late tackle of Johnny Sheridan in the first half that helped Toronto get to the 24-5 lead into the bins at the break. And set pieces, always critical. They will be tonight for the Cats. Too many off-target line-out throws last week. The tight 5 will definitely be tested tonight against Old Glory DC.
And for DC, of course, last week, their home opener against Seattle, they knocked off the defending 2-time champs. How do they find their first win on the road now?
They have the momentum coming off their first ever victory as a franchise, a goal line stand no less. Can they build on that huge momentum and pick up the franchise first ever road win tonight? Possession, very much improved set piece last week for DC, helped them maintain possession for long stretches in that victory over Seattle. They're going to be looking to do the same in beast mode. You have him, use him. One of the best players in the league, maybe one of the best players in the world. Get him involved as early and often as possible.
Well, it is year 3 of Major League Rugby, but let's focus on 2 men in their first year here in the States playing in MLR. And of course, that includes the Australian, your new scrum half in Houston, Devet Roos.
The 29-year-old, the captain, outstanding last week. He was the spark that Houston needed. He helped him score that first try, a little chip kick, had a blindside carry for the second on attack. 5 carries, 68 meters, and he and Windsor at the hinge, they are as important as anyone for Houston.
Meanwhile, for Old Glory, you already heard one reference. If you can bet the over-under on beast references, always bet the over. Tendai Matawiri.
The one and only, the beast, one of the best in the world, and one player can indeed change the fortunes of a franchise. He did it last week. He's changed the attitude, the mindset, a new confidence with Old Glory because of that man. He is something else, and he impacts every facet of the game.
2 teams right at 500 through 2 weeks of play, sitting on 5 points in the table. A valuable opportunity to move up in MLR coming up in Houston. Take a look at our starting lineups. First up for the home side in Houston, they come back to AVEVA Stadium. Their second home match already of this young campaign in Major League Rugby. And Kit, 3 reworked men on the front line. You imagine this is the A crew up front that'll line up with the beast as Houston hoping to be well rested with perhaps the new scrum in town.
Head coach Paul Healy elected to make 8 changes overall, an entirely reworked front line for Houston, to see how that goes up against DC United. They are trying to get some fresh legs in there against a very good tight 5 from the visitors.
And we talk about why would you put that emphasis on the front line? Well, the loose head prop who finally took the pitch last week at home in the nation's capital. The beast is back, and boy, did he make an impact in all of his 35 years of youth out there. Played 72 minutes and almost single-handedly took over that match.
He was outstanding, and Andrew Douglas electing to make 3 changes after last week's home opener over to Seattle. Dylan Peterson, Matt Houston get their first starts of the season at block and flanker respectively. Declan O'Donnell in the match day 23 for the first time this season.
Lincoln Rose, Kit McConico with you for our 80 minutes tonight in Houston. Chance to check in for the first time with the 3rd member of our broadcast team down pitch side with Isabella Radovan.
The SaberCats and Old Glory Hey guys, the Houston SaberCats are back at home taking on Old Glory DC and hoping to get back into that winner's column. Earlier this week, I spoke with head coach Paul Healy, and he told me tonight's game they're trying to focus on having a faster start, and he said they're trying to eliminate some of those corrections. And he said throughout this week, all the team, they've just been solely focused on themselves.
Number 4.
Look forward to plenty of chances to check back in with Isabella throughout tonight's evening, including an opportunity to chat with both head coaches closer to halftime. But here is Houston, finally a permanent home. They called 3 venues home last year. Of course, all the ghosts of rugby passed when you talk about Sugarland as well as Dyer Stadium. But boy, has this pitch now, with all of its time, including its first offseason, really taken a hold. A beautiful venue to compete for 80-plus minutes.
World-class facility, beautiful pitch here, ready to get things underway. Houston, the scrum, the set piece, that has been their strong suit all season long. And 2.5 years that they've been a franchise. We'll see if they're able to use that tonight against a very good and a very confident side from our nation's capital.
You are looking at your Major League Rugby Team of the Week, coming off their first ever victory. That impressive form against Seattle last weekend, and of course 3 of their men would be among the first 15 this past week named by Major League Rugby in addition to the Beast. A moment ago there you see Jason Robertson. What a job the fly half has done out of New Zealand, and of course as well Mungo Mason, the captain, earning those honors as well. Derek Summers will always earn honors in our hearts as one of the top officials here in the United States, as he will anchor this 3-man crew in pink tonight as Old Glory and Houston collide for a first time.
Mentioned important for Houston to get off to a quick start. Dug themselves a hole last week against Toronto. They played fantastic in the second half, but ultimately going into halftime trailing 24-5, that was just too big of a hill to climb.
Knock on against Old Glory. And here is the scrum. Oh, we did not have to wait long. The first test, we talk about Houston, who as of last year was the scrum to beat in all of Major League Rugby, so often earning themselves penalty opportunities and a chance for Windsor to split the posts. But Old Glory may have wrestled those honors away when the Beast finally put on that number 1.
This is where Houston's at their best. 93% owned scrum, 1 percentage. You talk about the 2 Argentines and the Irishmen, Solvera, Fortuny, and Conley. That front row for Houston, it collapses. We'll do it all again, but you put Breitenbach, Meeson behind them, the men there in the engine room, and that is a lot of power up front for the SaberCats. Obviously, the Beast, he can do it, but they have a youngster at hooker. Lupacetti, just 22 years old, the young man out of that powerhouse Gonzaga High School in DC, and then Fullerton, the tight head, the Kiwi, also 22. So a young front row aside from Tindai for Old Glory.
So a second bite at the apple here in the Houston scrum.
Really where you want to see Houston just use the power and exert their will.
Roos took a ball straight from the scrum for that final try last week in that narrow loss against Toronto. And already the whistle of Derek Summers chiming in before that ball scooped up by your vice captain, Magno.
Diego Magno, what a career he has had. Uruguay's all-time cap leader with 92. The man from Montevideo, and you see that tight 5. The 2 Argentines, Fortuny, Solvera, Conley out of Dublin, Breitenbach, the South African, Meeson rounds it out. The man from Northern California.
Yeah, those are your starters up front among the forwards, the props, and the locks. And of course, for Old Glory as well. A lot of Old Glory men playing vast majority of the minutes in that victory. Will they have enough in the tank for 80 minutes today against Houston? SaberCats looking for the opening strike. The last time we saw the SaberCats on the pitch, it was a 20-meter maul that almost led to a game-tying opportunity against Toronto in the closing seconds. Ball was held up, and as a result, Houston suffered its first blemish on the young campaign. An opportunity out wide there was Cecil Garber, back in the starting lineup for the second time in 3 weeks.
Houston finished last year on a high note, looking to start this season that way.
Tap and go, Roos will spill it back to Windsor.
A few miscues, some errant passes from Houston early on.
You mentioned 4 straight victories for Houston to close out the regular season. Last year came up short of the postseason. A lot of our voices in the Major League Rugby stable coming into this year thought Houston might be the team to look for that 3rd spot in the West now that we have divisions with postseason implications.
Everyone knows about the power of the pack for Houston. If those guys can do their job, you get it to the backs out wide. And for Houston, important to get that ball out to moving men, no standing feet.
Scotsman Kieran Farmer finally brought down, getting his first start here today. Magno looking to split a couple of big bodies there between Peterson and Houston. A little dummy finding space out wide. Houston looking for the early exclamation point. Old Glory able to intervene for a moment.
Absolutely beautiful run there from Tion Lutz, a 28-year-old from Cape Town.
But the good run will be marred by the knock-on. The ball back over to one of our 3 expansion sides here in year number 3.
Take a look at the inside center. Lutz, great dummy, able to fend off one. That final ball just not finding the target, knocked on, handling issues for Houston very early, something they're going to have to clean up.
First scrum for Old Glory. First chance to talk about Danny Tusitala, the Samoan. Boy, can he move this ball quickly, really dictate pace.
I played for both Samoa 7s and 15s. He was outstanding in that HSBC 7 series. Remember that Premier Auckland Mitre 10 Cup team as well. And both these teams, fantastic halfback pairing. I mean, you talk about Tusitala, the scrum half, and Robertson, the fly half for Old Glory, and then obviously David Roos alongside Sam Windsor, both so good at the hinge and incredibly important.
Opportunity to improve the real estate there as Old Glory kicks it into touch here for a line out. And well, we've seen the scrum now a couple of times, but set pieces, what do you expect here tonight?
Houston has to clean it up. Too many errant throws. And this is traditionally, they're good in both the scrum and the line out, but last week, just not on target. You want to see what Fortuny, the former Jaguares man there in Super Rugby, has recently signed, the 28-year-old from Salta, northern Argentina.
No surprise, Rob Meeson was the target there.
Meeson, that great leaping ability. Not the tallest. When I say that, at 6'5". I mean, you look at some of these locks that are like Comtat, 6'8", but Meeson, just fantastic work. Always in the right spot, the former UC Davis man.
So again, a slow start last year for Houston. But unlike the inaugural season, instead of 8 games, you had 16. So a chance to build some momentum. That's exactly what Houston did that final month of the season. Old Glory's not waiting for a slow start. Bounced right back from that loss in New Orleans.
We've already seen Coach Paul Healy electing to rotate the roster a bit for Houston because of that 16 game schedule. He wants to keep legs fresh.
And Old Glory again will look to improve field position here on the pitch. AVEVA Stadium, rugby specific venue here in the Lone Star State. And I tell you what, kid, as we look around at the 12 venues throughout Major League Rugby now, there are a lot of impressive destinations to take in a match.
There absolutely are, and this is one of the nicest one that you're going to find anywhere in the entire country. A beautiful facility. Everyone, obviously for so long it was Rugby Town USA talking about Glendale, but this is nice. A facility as nice a pitch as you're going to find in rugby.
Line out for Old Glory. This is their deepest penetration. Will it lead to our first points on the board?
Fortunate to retain possession, an errant throw, and able to come away with it cleanly off the line out, but the penalty will go against Houston inside Fortuny. The hooker commits the infraction, and we'll see if Old Glory elects to go for post, if they're going to put points on the board early. And it appears that they will. Robertson, the 25-year-old from New Zealand, he was incredible last week. First 15 in week 2 for Major League Rugby, and he could be the breakout player this year. He can kick with both feet. Young player, reads the game well, and I think this is a wise decision. Take first points on offer.
So Old Glory looking for the first 3 points rather than trying to kick this one inside the 5. And Robertson, your first 15 fly half, as named by Major League Rugby this past week. 25-year-old with the first try and the final try in that victory for Old Glory. That first one was pure effort on his part, out hustling everybody else on the pitch. And the flags are raised. Old Glory on the road looking for their first victory outside of the nation's capital here in this first month of the campaign with the first 3 points.
Nicely done. Robertson taking the points on offer, able to split the uprights, no trouble. And particularly when you're on the road, so important to get ahead, to give yourself that confidence. And they had it last week. They beat the 2-time defending champions at home, but they have yet to win on the road this season. Off to a good start today in the Lone Star State.
Nothing a Sam Windsor boot can't cure here. Right now down by 3. Both teams with just 1 bonus point through their first 2 weeks. A loss bonus last week for Houston. A little last-second code being whispered from one Argentine to another. Mason able to tap it back to Cecil Garber. Garber back in the starting lineup for the first time since the season opener. And it's right into the wall known as Matt Houston.
We'll see if SaberCats select to go with these short punching runs, draw that defense in. See if they can find a bit of space.
Charlie Connolly trying to churn out some meters. Windsor looking to take advantage of some speed as he was eyeing Dion Lutz, but Old Glory able to get to it first. Esdale, second opportunity here for Houston, as Old Glory gave it right back.
Great look from Windsor, a little grub through, couldn't get there, but able to dislodge it. Houston looking for the first 5, and they've got it.
Able to dot it down after the first 3 went to OG. Houston strikes and now is in the driver's seat.
Dion Lutz gets the start for Taylor Howden. We mentioned last week he had that card in the first half, and Toronto really took advantage so far. He's making a huge impact. We saw a great run earlier, just would not be denied, able to run through 1 tackle right through. Nkali couldn't bring him down, and the South African puts Houston on top. Conversion still to come.
You would imagine this will be a favorable angle to Sam Windsor's liking. And he's able to split the sticks now. 7-3. Conversion is good. And that is the answer from Houston.
And not just an answer, an almost immediate answer. And you're on the road, fantastic. You put points up, you take the lead. That's exactly what Old Glory wanted to do. For Houston, this is how you respond. Come back, get the try, take the lead.
Can you imagine both these teams wanting to play a cleaner match this week if they can avoid the scrum? As formidable as the other scrum has been.
Well, these are 2 of the top scrums in the league, and really neither has been tested, to be perfectly honest. Even though last week Old Glory went up against the 2-time defending champions, it's been a slow start to the season for the Seawolves.
And they will have a knock on there. The call official from Derek Summers.
Spilled forward.
And again, everybody back in the nation's capital at Exiles Bar at their watch party, wondering if this is going to lead to the first try of the night for Old Glory.
Well, the support they got last week, the fans there in our nation's capital rooting on Old Glory, it was incredible. And that's what you want to see. Both these teams do a great job of reaching out to the community, getting the young players involved. And for Houston tonight, that's something they've really done, is in fact, any player under the age of 12 who showed up in a youth team jersey, it doesn't matter what sport, they got free admission to this game.
I know Paul Sheehy occasionally gets questions about their own specific venue. I don't think they're eager to leave Catholic University just yet. What a great venue, what a great setup that is to really celebrate the game.
About to say, why would they be? You have that kind of home field advantage.
Nana Schultz will free it up here in a homecoming. 2 men for Old Glory in the starting 15 tonight, including Threaten Palamo, former Houston SaberCats a year ago. And a opportunity here. So this is the early mindset about to be unveiled for Old Glory. Do they try to pull back within 1, or do they want the driving maul? And we are given the indication the tee will come out.
As well it should. You have Robertson, who's almost automatic off the tee, particularly from this distance and this angle. Bring it out, make it a 1-point game. Houston's doing a good job defensively. They're getting to that first receiver quickly, but too many infractions from Houston. And right now, the penalty goal that put DC on top, they commit another. A chance for Old Glory to make it a 1-point game.
Jason Robertson, certainly no rust on the 25-year-old. Helped his Mitre 10 Cup squad earn promotion to the premiership into this year, and also found time to venture to Hong Kong, the Hong Kong 10s, where he won a pair of championships. Robertson with the earlier make, 1 for 1 tonight. And perfect 2 for 2.
Routine.
So a penalty will cost Houston. Old Glory pulls back within 1.
Old Glory has had very little possession. They've had little possession inside the Houston 22. Houston marched right down the pitch. They were able to dot it right between the posts, courtesy of Tion Lutz. But the 6 points from Old Glory come off the boot of Robertson, but it's been because of SaberCats' errors.
Ball right back to the visiting side. Old Glory gets to stick around at Lone Star State next week. They'll take on Austin, but they'll do it at Toyota Field in San Antonio. So while they'll miss out on playing at the Circuit of the Americas, they're at Bolt Stadium, the home of the Gilgronis this year. That's a fantastic venue, as we saw last year for a match in Major League Rugby down in the Alamo City. That'll be Military Appreciation Night. That'll be part of the Cuisine Solutions Cup. And you always appreciate new hardware on the line.
Without a doubt, Gilgronis hosting Utah tonight. Gilgronis hoping for their first victory of the season. We brought in some talent this week.
There is Nana Schultz. He's familiar with this terrain. And boy, Tusitala does not waste time. He makes those calculations as quick as anybody where he wants to send that ball. Magno, and finally the boot put to it. And that one for a stroll, finally. Will head into touch right at the fun.
Oh, great job. Absolutely brilliant there. Sends it out at the 5, line out coming. Houston, they can do it off the boot. They have been proven throughout the history of this club, and they've already shown it early tonight.
I think that ball even used its turn signal.
If they can steal this line out.
Yeah, we talk about the line out. It's so much practice makes perfect. And Houston does exactly what you, Kit McConico, prescribed. Opportunity for that second try, knocking on the door with Fortuny.
Houston, they can smell that in-goal area. Just let the big boys punch ahead.
Who will be those meter eaters? Old Glory trying to hold its ground. Oh, what a dummy. Can they hold the ball up, or will the arm be raised? And Old Glory not allowing a second surge after denying Roos a moment ago. Old Glory wants to say that that ball went forward. Right now, Derek Summers is going to consult one of his assistant referees, and it is a knock on.
Oh, Houston, what an opportunity missed. Centimeters away from the try line, unable to take advantage. I thought Roos had it initially. A beautiful dummy. He sold everybody in the building. But credit Old Glory. Stiff defending at the line kept him out.
We saw Old Glory get past again the two-time champions who were known for that seawall their first 2 years. They stiffen up here. Another scrum with Tusitala.
Look for Old Glory if they can win this one. Kick to relieve pressure, clear the lines. There's that power from Houston. Old Glory looking to play out of their own 5.
Cannot afford a penalty of their own. And again, eyeing better real estate. On the fly, Houston. Esdale. As opportunity has been renewed here for the home side.
Great take from Esdale, the former Miami Hurricanes safety. The American football player, just clean hands there.
Right into the arms of the enemy. That one plucked out of midair from Roberts Tanana. One of our many Kiwis taking the stage here tonight. That includes the top man, Andrew Douglas, for Old Glory.
DC doing a great job getting to the breakdown quickly, continuing to keep pressure on Houston.
Just enough calm from the veteran.
A little stab through, not finding anyone in white, instead right into the hands of the Olympic champion, Kalina Sau.
Well timed. This ball spills loose. It goes backwards to Windsor. I have to imagine a knock-on call, and that is the case here from Mr. Summers.
A bit hectic from both these teams, both trying to play very quickly.
We have reached our first water break, a pause in action. Houston with the lone try tonight. Old Glory, though, within 1, and with that ball when we come back. AVEVA Stadium, the site tonight between Houston and Old Glory. Already a match has gone final earlier today, and NOLA able to hang on late and hold off those Raptors of Colorado in Colorado as the final in Glendale. NOLA with the 7-point victory. Colorado does manage to find that lost bonus. Austin, the other match taking place in Lone Star State tonight, that's at their new home of Bold Stadium against the Warriors of Utah. That one is already underway. And of course, Toronto and Seattle collide. Can Seattle find its first victory of this third Major League Rugby season?
That's going to be difficult. A very good Toronto side. They return 26 players from last year's side. I think there's a good chance that the two-time defending champions begin the 2020 season with an 0-3 mark.
Lincoln Rose, Kit McConico, Isabella Radovan with you here tonight with our crew. First 3 points tonight belong to Old Glory from the boot of Mr. Robertson. He would chime in with 3 more most recently. But Houston with that 9th minute try and conversion sandwiched in between has them up by 1.
Really, Houston, the wounds self-inflicted. Both penalty goals from Robertson easily converted, but Houston committing those errors deep in their own end. The one try they had, beautiful run from Lutz. They would have dotted down between the posts, but they had an opportunity for more. They knock on right at the line.
Trying to tilt this pitch the other direction. Out wide with space, a foot race. 1 man to beat. As again, Renata Roberts-Tanana caught just in time.
Good ball outside of Roberts-Tanana, the 26-year-old Kiwi. Very accomplished sevens player. If you can get him in space.
Your fullback, Kalina Sau, will be able to track this one down. But ultimately into touch.
As good as Kalina Sau is, obviously, everything he's been able to do. Gold medalist with Fiji. He's on the $7 Fijian note, for goodness sake. But he's 34 years old, and he is a veteran. When he gets in that space, you see the pressure coming after the kick. If they can get that ball in space, I think there's a chance they can beat him to it. Another look there at the run from Roberts-Tanana.
Give Kieran Farmer a try-saving tackle on this near side.
We have time off. Referee having a word.
Old Glory DC, 92% of its lineouts won last week, and that was massive. That was a 25% upgrade from that week 1 loss against NOLA.
Old Glory looking to dot it down.
And that's a try for DC.
And Derek Summers signals they are in the try zone for the first time.
Able to get across, taking advantage of the kick. A great line out, cleanly taken and powered across. Take another look at it. Good ball in from the youngster, Lopresetti. And just coming off the side, the power through, keeping the legs going.
The captain has given Old Glory its second lead. As Mungo Mason, boy, is he a stat stuffer. Offense on the defensive side as well.
And one of the best names in Major League Rugby. What a game he had last week. 24-year-old from outside of Glasgow, grew up in New Zealand. 15 carries, 143 meters last week. And he's difficult to bring down. He had 4 tackle breaks.
Robertson with the unenviable angle, able to get it over the crossbar.
And the conversion attempt by
Well
DC
done,
is successful.
Jason Robertson. Perfect on kicks tonight.
Robertson making it look easy. An acute angle. No trouble.
Last 10 points now for Old Glory.
And Houston, who came out after conceding that penalty goal in the 9th minute to Robertson, they came back just 3 minutes later. Tion Luz with the try to put them on top, but they seem to have lost a little of that urgency that we saw from them when they responded after going down 3-0.
Bring it back to the middle of the pitch for this scrum. For Old Glory, who just recaptured the advantage. As Mungo Mason with the try, and we are reminded that, well, San Diego's loss, they had Mungo Mason in that preseason of the inaugural campaign in 2018, but visa issues did not work out and allow him to officially join the Legion. Now 2 years later, paperwork all in order, and he's made himself at home on the opposite coast.
He has spent his preseason with Edinburgh Rugby, of Guinness Pro 14. Core member of the Scotland 7 side.
All of 24 years old.
Just everything he does. I mean, he's great at the breakdown. He was outstanding in the ruck last week. That's really where he made his mark.
We'll mention our assistant referees tonight, Joe Burpo and Greg Varnell, in case their families are tuning in. Really, those first couple of years of Major League Rugby, it was the men in pink who really helped dictate the style of play by continuing to enforce the points of emphasis of how Major League Rugby would flow out there on the pitch. Obviously, both speed of play and safety in mind. A juggling act for our officials.
They've done a great job. They are communicators bar none, able to tell the players, the fans what's happening, keep up the pace of play, something so important. As Houston elects to take the opportunity, as they will bring out the tee, and it looks like the Rook will go for the post, see if he can cut it to a 3-point game.
Sam Windsor was your points leader in the first year of Major League Rugby. Now there's a glass half full and a glass half empty story behind that for Houston. They would win their scrums, but they would have to settle for 3 points. But anytime he teed it up, he was on the money. 103 points that first year for the Australian.
Major League Rugby's all-time regular season points leader, and he's done it by and large off of that right boot.
His day job? Well, he's the assistant coach for Houston. Leading by example and leading with that right boot. And they are now one Windsor kick away from tying this one up.
Windsor doing what he has done his whole stint here. Came to the States, chasing his then girlfriend and now wife Becca. Houston very happy to have him, what he's been able to do, and he became USA eligible just a month ago.
Towering into the Space City night. And this will stay with our visitors. And no, pardon me, the knock-on from Old Glory.
Scrum. SaberCats winning.
As Houston will elect for the scrum.
Very good accounting of the scrum for Old Glory. I didn't think Houston would be dominant by any stretch. I figured they would have an advantage just by the stats coming into today, but that has not proven to be the case.
We talked about Houston's finish last year. Of course, that was with interim head coach Paul Emmerich. A lot of the speculation would be who would get the full-time job. Would it be Paul Emmerich? Well, they went to another Paul Healy.
Cactus still there. He's the skills coach.
Really like the organization they have in that front office and with the leadership now in Houston.
Both these teams, as I mentioned, doing a great job getting younger players involved in the youth programs. You see the response from Magno, the Uruguayan, alongside his fellow Rio Platense Solera, the two. And that is what you need to do if you're Houston. It's the power up front, get the big boys rolling. Penalty. Windsor set to send it to touch.
They are not intimidated by the former Springboks.
Lincoln, I think the only time last year we saw the SaberCats scrum stopped, well, that was because of the footing on the pitch. It wasn't because of their opponents.
And Fortuny again will dial up this line out. Houston able to split the uprights a moment ago to chime in with 3 more points. An advantage here for the home team.
A driving maul, unable to keep their feet.
Again, we talked about that 20-meter maul against Toronto last week. Toronto, of course, was down 2 men at the time, a yellow and then later a red. That allowed Houston to take it to the try zone, but officially unable to dot that ball down. They still would have needed the conversion to tie it up.
Well, no surprise here, collapsing the maul gives the penalty, the opportunity to Houston, and Windsor immediately asking for the tee to be brought out, see if he can draw things even at 13.
Sam Windsor, of course, last year in Austin and in that season opener, 7 for 7. Houston would win that rivalry matchup on the road in what was then Round Rock, Texas, without ever dotting one down in the try zone.
And that was an incredible back and forth match. Houston ultimately came away victorious 21-20. But it was Windsor. It was a cold, rainy night.
And not ideal conditions for that right foot of Mr. Windsor. He didn't mind. Chance to tie things here in front of the home crowd. Mr. Windsor and Mr. Robertson are perfect tonight for their respective sides, and it has us level at a baker's dozen.
The Rook, the 32-year-old from New South Wales, former Ulster man. He is money when it comes to those penalty goals.
Another knock on.
And that is going to be a point of emphasis for both these coaching staffs when they head to the sheds just about 10 minutes. The handling errors, just too many. They were a lot early on. It seemed that they cleaned them up around that 10 to 15-minute mark, but now they've started to creep back in.
Mention how so many of Old Glory's starting 15 played the vast majority of the minutes in front of the home crowd in that victory last week. No substitutions seen as of yet.
It's a young team by and large, and we mentioned that very young front row, aside from the 34-year-old beast. Pressetti's 22, Fullerton 22, Nagali 25, Peterson 25. So the boys in the tight 5, they have fresh legs.
It was a rough start there on the maul as predictably it collapses. Scrum.
Tendai and Fortuny both looking at the other, accusing the other of bringing it down.
As Charlie Connolly, the lone Irishman left on the front line, locking up with the beast.
Former Ireland U20. He was in all 16 matches last year for these Cats. There they go.
SaberCats with everything clicking. And they will come back. They were playing an advantage. Indication from Derek Summers, the wheeling of the scrum.
Now starting to establish their dominance in the set piece. This is what Houston fans have grown accustomed to seeing. Mentioned that 93% scrum winning percentage. Touch judge Greg Varnell just having a quick word with Derek Summers.
We're going to have to learn a lot new names for our officials throughout Major League Rugby now that we have as many as 6 matches a weekend.
Finally, an Eastern and a Western Conference, everyone gets a home and away date, as it should be. The 3 new additions this year, alongside Old Glory and Free Jacks and the side down in Atlanta.
Al Bradenbach's the man with the egg right now in the midst of all of that. Of course, former player for Austin as recently as last year, came up through the club system, national champion with the Austin Huns. Gets to stay in the Lone Star State with his second Texas side in Houston. But the ball back over to the visitors from the nation's capital.
You'd imagine he'd want to stay with an off-season job like working at Austin Beer Works. He doesn't want to travel too far away from that.
The penalty was for obstruction. Is a SaberCat in front of the ball carrier.
My understanding is the health benefits are free samples.
Sold. I think most rugby players would agree.
I'll bring this one back.
Ball was not thrown straight.
Yep. On the line out, the ball not fed straight into the tunnel.
Robertson looking to get a bit of clarification. Oh, and as you would imagine, the Cats immediately choosing for the scrum, electing to bring the big boys back to work.
Houston winners in week 1. 22 points, not enough last week in Las Vegas against Toronto. Conversely, 22 points. Enough for the victory for Old Glory to put them in the win column for the first time as a young side here in Major League Rugby.
This is a different Houston side than the fans have seen. We mentioned the 8 new faces in the starting 15 for today. And a few of these guys, they were signed this week. I mean, you talk about players like Morani, the outside center, the Argentine, the man from Buenos Aires. He was signed 2 days ago.
Major League Rugby is not just an opportunity for the United States to improve its international game, but certainly we've seen a lot of South Americans buy in the first 2 seasons and now here in year 3 as well. This is a league that is going to make not just the red, white, and blue better, but the entire global game.
But it has effects all across the Americas, from Tierra del Fuego up to the tip of Alaska. And we saw it. You saw it in the Rugby World Cup in Japan. You saw the proliferation of MLR players on rosters like Uruguay. Argentines now starting to play in Major League Rugby as well. And obviously, huge advantages for the U.S. and Canada.
Windsor able to free it up to, again, his new partner in Roos. Fortuny hanging on.
This is better from Houston. Punching runs, putting pressure on the defense.
The last 2 scores have come from the men in black off the boot of Windsor. A little 6-0 run looking to add here. Windsor into space. And again, that ball, will it use its right turn signal this time? It does. And opportunity from the 5-meter line coming up from Houston.
Sam Windsor can do things with his boot that professional golfers can't do with their irons. It's incredible the touch he can put on a ball.
Understandable concern right now for Old Glory.
Robertson being attended to, as is Conley for the Cats.
And Robertson, 2 tries last week, found that go-ahead score in the 3rd minute and what would prove to be the difference maker in the 79th minute. Back there at Cardinal Stadium, Catholic University.
And it was the boot. Obviously, the tries were massive, but what he was able to do with the boot, putting Seattle in terrible position. The Seawolves playing out of their own end for the vast majority of the match. He had 13 kicks for over 400 meters.
If you're Old Glory, you're hoping to get a turnover here, or pardon me, to have a clean one and avoid any penalties.
Houston's already stolen a line out.
Well, they opt to put their boot into it. They're going to try to churn out some meters. Get out of the shadows of their own try zone.
Wall of black jerseys closing quickly. Houston not doing themselves any favors in that situation. The defense was there, as I mentioned, doing a great job getting to the first receiver, and Solveda not pleased. He's the one who committed the infraction offside for the big Argentine loose head.
Just a little breathing room. As we're back to Lepresti, the hooker.
Great to see a local product there out of Hyattsville, Maryland. I mentioned he played for that Gonzaga high school program, one of the best high school teams in the country. He came up with the Capital Selects, the Potomac Exiles. That's what Major League Rugby does. It gives the local players a chance.
Ball freed up. They will bring it back to where that boot was put into it from Tusitala. I don't know if you noticed this, but the Beast was the engine behind that maul there for a while. He was in that second level.
He has an incredible work rate. He's always around, always getting things done. Fantastic fitness level. And that was going to be the question. Some of these big name signings that have come to Major League Rugby, maybe not as, we'll say, as fit as they have been in the past. Not the case for Tendai. He's looking every bit the man who won the Rugby World Cup with the Bucks just a few short months ago.
Houston struggling with the lineout. And after the mistake from Tusitala by kicking that ball on the full into touch, essentially sending it out on the fly, Houston gives it right back. And we talk about those lineouts. It's simply having the same cast of characters show up to practice each day and work on it together to develop that chemistry.
It has to be clockwork, just second nature. Your hooker gets up, he gets the ball, but it's so difficult. I mean, the way he gets the ball in, there's so many little nuances that most people don't see about it, but you're right. Like anything, you just have to do it hundreds, if not thousands of times. Interesting if either one of these sides can put points on the board and break the deadlock before they head to the sheds.
Penalty occurred in the scrum from the SaberCats.
Can Old Glory inch back into a lead for a third time this half before these two teams reach intermission?
Houston's given them the opportunity. Houston allowed those first the first 6 points, penalty goals, Houston shot themselves in the foot, and they may have here late in the half.
We saw Old Glory with a big stand earlier to deny the try. The men from DC will look to set up the maul from 5 meters out after this line out. Phase 1 complete. Well done, but no.
Banana Schultz was across, thought he had it. It was a clean take, at least it appeared to be from Pidasa.
Summers' whistle denying the score.
USA Eagle 534. Thought he'd broken the deadlock, put the visitors on top.
And after Houston comes up with the stop, Mr. Windsor will send us to halftime. Oh, a back and forth classic, the first ever meeting between these two sides. A much improved SaberCats squad in year 3. And safe to say, this is the best season Old Glory has ever had in Major League Rugby. Our halftime coverage just around the corner. Auto Stores is proud sponsor of Regional Rugby Calendar. Find out when Old Glory will hold its clinics in your area. Go to oldglorydc.com and check out the Regional Rugby Calendar presented by Sheehy Auto Stores. Exiles Bar is the official DC area watch bar of Old Glory, located at 1610 U Street Northwest. Drink specials, big screens, projectors carrying each away game. We'll see you at Exiles Bar. And of course, don't forget, put it on your calendar, Sunday, March 8th at Cardinal Stadium on the campus of Catholic University. It is Rugby Atlanta against fellow expansion side here in year 3 of Major League Rugby, Old Glory. Convenient metro access, plenty of parking. Just go to oldglorydc.com and purchase your tickets. All right, here in week 3 of Major League Rugby, 13 apiece, a back and forth match between the SaberCats and the men from our nation's capital. Lincoln Rose, Kit McConico with you. And Kit, this could be anybody's match when it's all said and done. Take a look back at some of the highlights from the first 40.
Jason Robertson got it started early, a penalty goal in the 9th minute. And then Houston coming back, a great run to Tion Lutz, the inside center. The conversion from Windsor. Houston led 7-3. Right back comes Robertson, another penalty goal, a 1-point game. And then Old Glory started to get things going, moving the ball well, using the big boys. Beast always in the mix as well. Beautiful ball sent just past the outstretched hand. Cleanest able to get it, couldn't keep it in. A clean take on the line out. Mungo Mason powers across, the only try of the first half for Old Glory DC, and that put them ahead 13-7. Back to Windsor with the boot. A pair of penalty goals to end the first half. That tied it at 13-all. That is where we stand at the break.
Both teams certainly capitalize on the mistakes of one another, including some perfect right-footed fly halves along the way. Looking forward to second half action. We're level in H-Town. And also brought to you by the Supply Room, a proud sponsor of Old Glory DC. No matter what your office needs, we can get it to you with next day shipping and unbeatable prices. Choosing your one-stop office supplier is as easy as visiting thesupplyroom.com. Well, we remind you what the table in Major League Rugby looked like coming into today, with 3 teams unbeaten, including, again, Atlanta, Toronto, and the Legion right there at the top. I think a lot of folks thought Toronto a year ago might already be playing like Toronto has been this year, but it has all come together for the Arrows.
It has indeed. We mentioned that they returned 26 players from last year's squad, and for San Diego, one player can make a difference. That player for the Legion, Ma'anonu, the great All Black, he is putting a stamp on that side. And after falling last year in the final to the Seawolves, they will stop at nothing short of that 70-pound shield.
Houston already victorious once here at home, trying to defend their home pitch once again. With more on that, let's check back in with Isabella Radovan.
You will be allowed on
Coach, what was the message you gave your team at halftime?
The message was pretty simple, you know. We just have to start well again. Like, you know, we let ourselves down last week in the first half by not starting well and gave away too many penalties and too many turnovers of possession. So we just got to start again and work hard this half and see how it goes.
What adjustments do you think this team needs to make going into the second half?
Well, we just have to make sure we have our set piece right and we make the right decisions and not give away so many penalties.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Isabel.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate the time of Paul Healy. Again, his first year at the helm, hired this offseason to take over the SaberCats. As this is a Houston team that beat Colorado in that first week 21-12, came up just short against Toronto in Vegas. That was officially a Toronto home date. But as we know by now, Toronto, for the most part, that will be a backloaded schedule for the Arrows once again, and already a great start for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Off to a fantastic start. The men from north of the border. You heard from the former Chilean national team coach, Paul Healy. Just too many mistakes. And as far as, 10 knock-ons, 7 penalties conceded in the first half. And those are things, self-inflicted wounds from Houston. And against the team the caliber of Old Glory DC, you cannot give them these advantages. Houston, they need to clean things up. Conversely, for Old Glory, I think you just need to keep doing what you're doing. Let Robertson dictate. And the more often you have the ball in Jason Robertson's hand, the better off you're going to be.
Again, these are both teams that can make you pay for your mistakes. Thanks in part to their respective fly halves.
I'd like to see which one of these teams comes out on the front foot here to start the second half. Which one really takes it to the other. They were both a bit flat in the final 10 minutes. No points scored in the final 10 minutes of the first half.
Usitala will put Houston back on their heels. Klenesau, your fullback again, not even in the lineup last week. I think when you're Osei Klenesau, you get that home game contract where you never have to actually get on a plane.
If you've won the first ever gold medal in Fiji's history and you have your face on the $7 note, I think you could probably work that in.
Mr. Windsor will send it back to the middle of the pitch.
Oh, beautiful take. Great hands right at the midline.
So some strong fingertips. So they'll finally free it up. Lepresti. Is that the dynamic runner you're looking for out on the wings?
Where to go for the 22-year-old from Maryland.
How about the bulldozer? Able to pop right back up there. Well fed from Declan O'Donnell, who got the nod this week in the starting 15.
Usitala doing a great job getting quick to the breakdown, able to sneak through and maybe a bit too quickly. Magno points him back as it appears we have seen our first change made at halftime, and it is the Beast. So a change on the front road and a change at Lucid.
Yeah, Turnbull comes on. This is notable because Montuarira played 72 of the 80 minutes last week.
Turnbull, one of those former SaberCats, not just a SaberCat player, he's a former Academy of Youth Development coach the last 2 years here in Houston. Last year saw action in 12 matches, did the Sydney native.
2 minutes in to the second half and a chance to inch back ahead.
When you have kickers as prolific as Robertson and his counterpart Windsor, you have to be clean. The penalties conceded, 7 in the first half. You heard Coach Healy for the SaberCats saying we have to clean it up. Not a good start for the home team, giving the opportunity at the post for Robertson.
His toughest kick tonight probably on that conversion back in the first half. Off the upright, it is through for the 3 points. As Old Glory, they missed out on that try before halftime, but now find a lead here in the opening moments. We did see the first substitution for the visitors. This is what else they have on the bench here tonight. Same for the SaberCats.
I've already seen Turnbull comes in, taking over as the Lucid for the Beast. Larson, the Canadian national team man, also on the bench there for Old Glory.
Kieran Farmer spins forward again, getting his first starting nod of the young campaign. And they are well within Windsor's range. You would trust that boot for 50, but he says no, we're eyeing the line out here, as he will send it towards the 5.
I think that's a good decision not to exchange kicks. It was from distance, a bit of wind, certainly well within Windsor's range, as you mentioned. But when you have the power, a clean line out taken here, you let the big boys go to work. Breitenbach barking out instructions. We'll see if Fortuny can get this ball into a black shirt and if they can get this across for 5.
Excited for all the fans in DC who finally have a team to cheer for here in Major League Rugby. You do want to remind them, don't get too high with the highs or too low with the lows. We saw almost every team in MLR last year have a special run, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. Of course, last year, New Orleans, your early front runners, so many doubters. But finally, by the time they put those doubters to bed, then it started to slip away late in the year. At the same time, Houston was starting to find momentum. Of course, the outcome was the same the final match of the year, Seattle lifting its second shield.
I have a feeling it's going to be a different result in 2020, year 3 of Major League Rugby. I don't know, but who knows? I would never count out the 2-time defending champions. A reason that side there in Seattle has hosted the Shield 2 years in a row. But you're right, Nola, they were on that incredible run, just a blitzkrieg through the league at the beginning of the season. Houston, they couldn't buy a win early on, and they won their final 4 games, but ultimately it was just too little too late for the Cats.
I think there will be reason to be disappointed if you're a fan base of either of these two teams and you don't get to cheer for them in that postseason. I think they have given you glimpses of some special moments already here early in the year.
Without a doubt, but it's about consistency. Can you do it match in, match out, not just a good match or a good pair of matches. You see the push from the tight 5 from Houston. Silvera Meeson and the fans very pleased. How could you not be? The big boys just going to work. Able to gain the penalty. And we'll see Magno saying, let's do it all over again.
Again, even when the Beast was in the lineup up front, Houston not intimidated. Working together as a cohesive unit, and now in his absence, you have to think that they have their eyes on a few more deeper penetrations and finishing a few more possessions in that try zone.
Without a doubt, when you can put a stamp on it with the scrum, the physicality, it raises everyone, all 15 on the pitch on your side. When you know that you can call for the scrum and chances are you're going to win it.
That tunnel will collapse.
A young tight 5 for the visitors from DC. They held their own. It's scrums in the first half. Each side won 4.
Want to brag on Old Glory. Even if they had not had any success on the pitch this year, they still would have had a lot of success away from it, growing the game. Their priorities in improving opportunities for youth all around the community. So like the blueprint of several other clubs here in Major League Rugby of growing the game, but also seeing the opportunities that rugby provides. But this time around, 2 strikes and you're out in rugby, as penalty 1 here for Houston.
And collapses 2 times in a row. And Lincoln, you're exactly right. What they've done for youth rugby across the DC metro area, in Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, all across the region. And DC's always been a hotbed of rugby. There's been great high school rugby, great club rugby in our nation's capital for a long time, and it's long overdue that they have a major league side. I say that it's only year 3, but very happy that they have their own team to cheer for. And for those young players that grow up playing in and around the district, to be able to look up to these young men and watch them play in person.
Well, Vakalahi, who's come off the bench now all 3 matches, will come on to make some adjustments as they will go back to the scrum. You see he comes on for Gordon Fullerton, the tight head.
And we talk about youngsters. Fullerton at 22. Vakalahi just 20 years old, the former USA U20 man in Davenport University prop. Granger, Indiana.
So after back-to-back collapses, called on Old Glory, Houston opts for the scrum again.
I think Houston's going to offer the scrum every time for the rest, but immediately coming in, and the new addition, all 5'10", 275 pounds of it, makes an immediate impact. Well, that's the response from DC you want after being dominated in the last few scrums. Great job fighting back in there.
We were tied at 13 at halftime. Jason Robertson making the lone kick of this second half so far. As Old Glory back in the driver's seat here on the road. That try bonus will be tough for these 2 teams. At this pace, certainly a loss bonus would be in the cards for one of them. Each eyeing the full 4 points for the victory.
Another change. Looks like it's going to be on the front row.
And Max Lum, who we last saw last year with the Raptors in Glendale.
He will come on taking Lepresti's spot. The youngster comes out as the hooker. Lum takes his spot. 25-year-old out of North Carolina. And 14 matches, 261 minutes last year with the Raptors.
Well executed by Old Glory.
Old Glory electing to make numerous changes. We'll see if those fresh legs give them something. Spills out right to Magno. Oh, and Magno, good hands from the Uruguayan. Cats off their feet.
Yeah, when pursuing that ball, those feet need to be on the ground. You know, all this about player safety and keeping the flow of the game. And this will be an aggressive decision.
Normally you would say so, but I don't know if it is with Jason Robertson, what he's been able to do. He is perfect off the boot tonight. 1-for-1 conversion, 2-for-2 and penalty goals. This one just on the inside of the Houston end.
If this was James Harden here in Houston, you would call this a heat check. Robertson has already put DC up by 3. Driving with ease towards the sticks and off the upright. This time, for the first time tonight, the flags will stay down.
He played it off the upright earlier. That 16-13 lead. This time he tried to go off the upright and off the crossbar.
You would think that would almost be worth double.
You would think so. Rare miss from Robertson, his first this evening. Houston dodges one there. It had the distance.
Another valuable opportunity here in the lineout for Old Glory here with this set piece. And another change. It'll be Travis Larson. He's back in the Lone Star State, played for Austin with his brother Josh last year. Josh is up in New England with the Free Jacks these days. Former Canadian national team.
Houston bringing on Boyd Wiggins, a 26-year-old prop, originally from Harare, Zimbabwe, and grew up in Auckland, New Zealand. Comes on wearing the number 18. He'll plug in on the front row. We're 10 man.
Stolen by Houston.
Houston has to know that had a bit of luck on their side. That one coming off the crossbar and the post. The miss from Robertson just moments ago. See if they can do anything with it.
Two very well matched sides here in week 3 of Major League Rugby.
Oh, beautiful offload.
Offload from O'Donnell in time. Ball spills forward. And this should be an advantage for Houston.
Good look from Declan O'Donnell to his countryman.
Esdale.
He's been bottled up, has great speed. The Floridian hasn't been able to show it off.
They'll call off the advantage now. Houston continues to run.
Oh, charged down well. He just tried to send that one through, almost kind of a three-quarter kick. Wasn't quite the stab kick through. Didn't try to go with a box kick.
So the knock-on was called on Old Glory soon after the charge down. Houston will opt for the scrum here.
Reconfigured tight five for Old Glory with all the changes. It's been a better accounting of themselves in the scrum here.
See what Roos has in mind after he feeds this one.
Houston still their starting forwards back, have yet to make a change in the tight five.
That's the tight five for Old Glory, needing name tags with several changes.
Old Glory fans still getting to know their team. Remember, they played just one game at home this year. Some of these Houston SaberCats, they've been here. This is their third year in Space City. They're well acquainted with the Cats and their fans.
We mentioned, though, Houston players were nomads their first couple of years, bouncing between public school venue at Dyer Stadium and then Sugarland at that minor league ballpark. They were teased briefly that AVEVA was ready, but the pitch had not taken a hold. In fact, Derek Summers worked that match, and I know he laments the fact that he had to insist for player safety that they'd be uncontested scrums that day. A beautiful pitch now. What a surface for Major League Rugby.
Great take from Esdale, over the head catch.
Trying to stay in play, they'll say no. Into touch went Jason Robertson. The moment even a piece of that boot is on the line, that ball is out of play.
Able to get to it in time. I didn't know that he was going to be able to get to that kick from Kalina Sal. Was able to get underneath it and just,
I think a big toe somehow scraped over that line.
That credit there, able just to get him out enough. Morani, the new addition, one of the 4 Argentines on this Cats side.
Another one, the hooker Fortuny still in, feeds that one and winds up getting the ball back for Houston. They'll free it up here.
Who's responsible for the only try tonight for Houston. He's been bottled up since he found the opening 5.
A lot of clean, bright white kits for Old Glory with a slew of substitutions early in the second half.
You mentioned Houston nomads early on, trying to find a place to call home. And speaking with these players before this year, what it means to have a home pitch, to have your locker rooms here, to know where you're going to play your matches. It makes all the difference.
And Windsor, last time we saw his boot to ball, we had a charge down from Old Glory. No such occurrence here, obviously, as he gets to choose that ball's destiny. A line out to his SaberCats.
Great take from Braybach. Went short, quick.
Able to spin out of a tackle, Lutz.
He's been the offense, the most dangerous ball in hand tonight for Houston. Esdale, not the opportunities.
Looking for help. Nobody was there. This ball will spill.
Just miscommunication. Windsor looking like he thought there was going to be a teammate there. Was waiting for the whistle. There was not. Solveda exchanging pleasantries with the visitor scrum half.
Had a Tusitala caught on his kit. This was after the whistle.
Travis Larson and Solveda, those two, they played against each other in the Americans Rugby Challenge for Argentina and Canada. Larson, who had the opportunity of playing with his brother last year in Austin. That's the first time that they've ever played together. Now they're back on opposite ends of things. Josh with New England.
Yeah, those brothers growing up in New Zealand. Travis later would move to Italy. Canadian eligibility, like many of these men, even at such a young age, well-traveled. Lots of stamps in the passports. And again, few changes here in the second half for Houston, but another one as Garber comes off in favor of the Namibian. We saw in the World Cup.
Boysen comes on, the 23-year-old back row player.
And Lilo, who got the start last week, back on as well.
DC, who made a lot of changes early in this second half. Now Houston following suit.
Ositala frees this one up. Back to the Samoan. It pops out, back to Houston. What a break, right into the loving arms of Marani.
Palamo had it too. Big threat in Palamo, looking down, the former University of Utah running back. He was headed downhill, just couldn't hold on to it.
And Palamo, who was a mid-season addition to Houston last year, joins his brother, who's a member of the staff with Old Glory this season.
And Palamo, who's not had any chances, threatened Palamo, the U.S. national team man, 17 caps, 13 starts. For the former Saracens, the London Welsh player. He's a player you want to get more involved. You want to get him chances, ball in hand, and he finally gets one, and he can't hold on.
Those 17 national caps played in a Rugby World Cup 8 days past his 19th birthday, threatened Palamo.
I mean, he's always been around the game. He grew up playing. He was with that Samoan U19 side before electing to play for the USA. He played in the inaugural college rugby championship back with Utah when they beat Cal in overtime back in 2010. Just an incredible talent.
All right, opportunity here for Old Glory. About 11 to 12 meters out.
Finally a reconfigured front row as Lilo comes on. Taking the place of Solveira at number 1, the new loose head.
60th minute underway. And a collapsing of the scrum. And again, a little concern now. You see favoring that left shoulder.
That's Charlie Conley. He was attended to earlier. Training staff was out. They took a look at the big Dubliner. And he's in obvious pain there.
Okay. He's there as your tight head prop. This will coincide with our final water break of the night. Houston still searching for its first points of the second half. Old Glory DC up by 3. Back underway after Connolly comes off the pitch for Houston.
Great work defensively from Magno and company. Houston getting it done. You see response there from the men in black and gold. A massive stop just when it looked like Old Glory going to be able to extend this 3-point lead even further.
And Houston looking to bounce back from that narrow defeat in Vegas against Toronto. Meanwhile, Old Glory was looking to ride that high. Threatened Palamo in the center of your screen from their first ever victory. Coincided with their home opener back in DC. And we're being told that last break was simply the injury timeout, and this is your hydration break. We will stick around right here. Houston and Old Glory kit. Again, 3rd year of Major League Rugby, 12 teams, and all of a sudden the DVR is packed to the gills. If you're trying to watch each and every match, essentially 6 matches to keep up with each weekend.
This is what the fans always wanted. An Eastern and a Western Conference, a home and away match. This is how it should be. Now you have those natural geographic rivalries. You have New York and New England, the 2 Texas teams. It's fantastic for the growth of Major League Rugby. And you mentioned what MLR has done, not just for rugby in the States, not just in Canada, but across the Americas and across the world.
Houston and Old Glory tied for 6th with 5 points coming into today. Again, this being the third weekend, really a chance for there to be some separation throughout and a little bit clearer of a picture to form as who is what in 2020.
You're going to start to see that. You're going to start to see the separation, all the teams there with that 1 win, 1 loss record thus far. They're going to start to separate. There's a very good one here, obviously, in Houston. Game down in Austin, Utah. There at Old Stadium, Circuit of the Americas, taking on the Gilgronis. We'll see some of these teams start rising to the top. Some of these teams are going to start desperately looking for wins, including the 2-time defending champions.
How will the final 20 minutes here in Houston play out?
All to play for Houston. They've cleaned up the knock-ons a bit, not conceding the penalties that they did in the first half, which is really galling for their coach, Paul Healy.
Lutz with his run brought to an end. Ball quickly freed up by your captain this year, Roos.
Great work closing defensively. Houston needs to spin it. Palamo lowering the boom.
And Windsor trying to switch ends. Volleys back and forth. And a precarious ball does not go to the favor of the SaberCats.
Not the kick Kalinisalo was looking for. He's looking for that box kick, and he took that one. He wasn't set. It went straight up and out into touch. Fortuitous for Old Glory. Not at all what Houston wanted in that situation. And you see Palamo on Kalinisalo. That is a big man.
Former teammates right here in Houston a year ago.
Almost starting to get touches, getting a few carries.
And mishandled there.
And tried to jackal it away at the ruck, did Lilo. Just about to say that Old Glory doing a good job getting to the breakdown, getting that clean ball out quickly. As
Tusitala called the guilty party there.
Josh Brown has come on, the 32-year-old from New Jersey, the firefighter and a paramedic. He was on trial with New England. He couldn't make it work, just too long of a commute. He now lives in Columbia, Maryland. But he's been able to make it work, keep his day job there, helping the citizens of Maryland and also playing professional rugby.
The Australian will feed the scrum.
You see it right there. Ferrus counting off.
Yeah, he wants a little flash of color to come out of the pocket of Derek Summers.
A few times Derek Summers has said it. He's given a few warnings, and I think the vet Roos counting how many warnings referee Summers has given and not issued a yellow thus far.
Houston, of course, was able to start getting those cards to emerge against Toronto late, almost to allow for a comeback when they finished that match up 2 men, 15-13.
It was Houston who played down a man. Lutz was in the bin in the first half, and considering they were down 17-0 just 15 minutes in, they were down 24-5 at half, and they were almost able to come back for the win.
Kalinisalo, the fullback, well done. Farmer trying to make the most of his first start.
What a ball. High-flying rugby from Houston. Can they reward themselves with the try?
SaberCats have not allowed Old Glory to find insurance here in the second half. Houston still eyeing its first point since re-emerging from the locker room. Roos to Wiggins. Kiwi stops, 7-meter shot. Well done by Old Glory so far. They tried to attack them wide, now right at the heart
Short punching runs, bit of fatigue on the part of Houston. You can see it, the big boys not the leg drive and take it away. Great work from DC.
Well, everybody back at Exiles Bar. Exhale.
Stole it at the breakdown, and that is the second time Houston has been within the shadow of the post. They've been unable to come away with points tonight.
Oh, a couple of dummies and a dribbler off the boot. But Old Glory able to track it down, and an uncomfortable looking stop when it was all said and done. When Lutz got locked up with the scrum half, Tusitala.
That's what Cats fans have been looking for all night from the new addition, Morani, Tomas Morani.
Well, both teams with a victory within sight. You cannot let it unravel here.
He played back in Argentina with the Lucet, the starter Nicolas Olveira. Tomas de la Vega of the Toronto Arrows, also a member of that university side. Hasn't had chances, and you see what he can do in open space. A great look, and that is a step right there. Outside, I'm going to go in. And a race to it. Lutz just a bit late.
Yeah, the scrum half almost bent backwards in half. As you're looking at Lilo. Californian being tended to.
It's been so many years with the Seattle Saracens. He missed almost all of 2018 and most of 2019 with injury, so not good to see Lilo being attended to. I hope that this year the former USA U20 man was back and finally healthy. So you get another look at the run from Morani.
Well, Derek Summers just got done talking to his assistant referee about this that you'll see in your picture in just a moment when Tusitala comes up with this ball as he gets entangled with Lutz in a scary moment there. And Derek Summers will relay his message to both sides now.
Lutz no stranger to the bend. We haven't seen.
There is your first yellow.
Yeah, there it is. That was the question of if we would see a yellow and who would be on. That answers that.
That yellow may not be from the live play itself. That may be from what followed afterwards. As the yellow, we'll get it straightened out here in just a moment. It appears to actually be on Old Glory. It will be Renato Roberts-Tanana, who will leave his teammates down a man for the next 10 minutes.
Renata, the Star Sevens player.
So that had more to do with the altercation that ensued.
That's exactly what it was. It was after the fact, after play had stopped, and the Argy-Bargy continued well after the whistle. And now just about 15 minutes remaining, and there's going to be a numerical advantage for 10 of these 15 for the home side.
DC gets the penalty and will be throwing at the lineout.
Can either of these teams take command here in the second half?
Almost stolen away. Lum lucky to get back to it. Look at Lum rumble.
Lum with the lovely bounce, now lumbering. That one making it way up to, again, Bakalahi. Klinisau.
Just playing center field, a little stab kick through from Robertson. Looked initially that he may get a good bounce, but Klinisau able to corral it.
It was a kick like that that actually went the way of Houston last week, where Toronto just calmly and cavalierly tried to field a ball, and out of nowhere came Roos.
A bit too calmly. Yvette Roos happy to take full advantage. He got his hand on it.
It would lead to one of his 2 tries last week. Tries have been in limited supply here tonight in Houston. It's been the boots of Windsor and Robertson. Offloaded down that line. It'll tightrope into the try zone. A rare chance to mention DTS.
Dylan Takedo Simpson, the 29-year-old Kiwi, professional in Australia, New Zealand, Romania, Scotland, Italy, and former Glendale Raptors man. He's first time we've called his name. It's the first time he's got his hands on the ball tonight.
29-year-old last year had a nice partnership with the likes of Harley Davidson and company with the Raptors.
Talented, speedy wings, just haven't been able to play a factor. O'Donnell, not a lot of touches. The fullback, DTS, much the same.
I think DTS had perhaps one of the feeds outlet passes of the year last year on this pitch to Davidson.
That was something else.
Now with his new sign, Old Glory, right now still up by 3, looking for their first ever road victory and their first winning streak that would follow.
Mentioned how important it was to build on the momentum from last week. Kalina Sau coming out for the Cats, giving away to Zachary Short, the 22-year-old, born in Northern California, grew up in New Zealand, now on.
Some struggles with the line out. It won't cost Old Glory. It's okay that that ball went forward. It went off a foot. Travis Larson.
Bruising run there. What you want to see from Larson, making things happen.
O'Donnell now with the ball. Again, his first start of the young campaign. And he's played every minute so far.
Alamo unable to fend off the would-be tackler.
Well, right now it's Muscle finding a meter at a time. A little more gracefulness from Robertson.
But making meters. Getting to that gain line, closer to that try line.
And Old Glory finally put themselves up by 2 scores. Both teams have come up with big stops.
Great work, patient, going through the phases here from Old Glory. Inching ever closer.
Within 10 meters. And again, this is not the time.
Already one man in the bin. Old Glory, this attack down a man, and all the more impressive considering they're playing 14 on 15 with Robert Sinana in the sin bin currently. About another 5 minutes. Magno, the vice captain, taking offense at something, the longtime Uruguayan stalwart.
Usually the biggest offense is that guy's wearing a different color uniform than I am. Both the captains coming together.
Well, big turn here with just about 10 minutes remaining in the match. Still all to play for. Robertson, as you might imagine, will call for the tee, and this is about as routine as it gets for number 10 in white.
The only thing that's left is both uprights and the crossbar on a single kick, right? From 8 meters out. Jason Robertson makes it a 6-point lead.
I know DC fans was hoping for the full 5. They wanted to try in the conversion, try to put their side up by 2 scores, but for the circumstances, I think they will gladly take the 6-point advantage. Houston hasn't scored since the 30-minute mark. They haven't scored since there were 10 minutes remaining in the first half. They've been stymied here in the second.
That's Tim Stanfill who comes on. Guy we've seen winning club championships at both the 7s and 15s level, the Seattle native. As Lutz sees his day come to an end.
Stanfill Eagle number 455, the Vancouver, Washington native. Former Central Washington University star, 4-time All-American, 2-time national champion there.
A shame there's not a club closer to his hometown. And a whistle from Derek Summers brings this back.
We'll see if Portland gets a team. I think it'd be an easier trip across the Columbia River than going all the way up north.
The offside call will win the ball here for Houston.
Houston needs to get something going offensively. It's been anemic here in the second half from the Cats. The opportunities they haven't been able to take advantage of. And give DC credit. They've been great, particularly backs against the wall. Inside their own 22, their defense has really stood strong.
So Windsor sends it into touch. That sets up this line out where you still have your starting hooker in. That's the good news, but he's got a lot of new faces now.
One try Houston has tonight came off a line out. It was a clean take. They were able to get it to Lutz, who dove across and dotted it down. See if they can do something similar.
See if this one goes clean. Old Glory getting close to being back to full strength. Back over to the man from DC. That ball spills forward. And we should have a knock-on call coming.
Great work from behind, able to dislodge it. And Houston turned it over, returning the favor.
So Houston had a chance to play an advantage, but this is SaberCats ball.
Time of the essence for the Cats. Take another look. Coming from behind, fantastic work there. Moisen, the 23-year-old from Namibia, who saw action in this year's World Cup, and when he went up against the champions, he played against South Africa. He played against New Zealand, top 2 teams, or 2 of the top teams, I should say, in the world. At least we'd not forget England in that mix.
A lot of things can still happen with a little over 6 minutes to go here. Obviously, both of these teams had their matches come down to the final seconds with a ball being in the try zone, but being held up. For Old Glory, their defense made the stand. For Houston, despite being up 2 men, unable officially to apply that pressure.
That's been a sour taste that the SaberCats have had in their mouth all week long. Thought they should have gotten away with a victory there. A come from behind win was not to be against Toronto. Something they have harped on in every training session this week.
There's set piece here for Houston. You saw that ball spill loose from Moisen.
Coming in for the SaberCats, we have number 16.
Tim Cadwallader will come on again. He, another one of these men from up front who got the start last week. The front 3 completely retooled this week for the SaberCats. They knew what they were in for against Old Glory. And by all accounts, SaberCats have not been intimidated tonight.
Give Diego Fortuny a ton of credit. He put in a massive shift, 75 minutes for the Argentine hooker. Great work. He was good by and large in the lineouts as well as the scrums.
Old Glory scrum here. Tusitala sends it in. That ball matriculates quickly. Palamo. Samoan wants to move quickly.
See the focus he brings. Peterson brought down immediately before he can get ahead of steam.
Again, this isn't Old Glory eyeing a try bonus, just one trip into the try zone here today, but their best offense here for the final 4+ minutes.
And that's been the case. Their defense has done the job. Now we'll see if the offense can return the favor. They can extend this lead. And at this point, if they're able to tack on another 3, that may well ice it. Jason Robertson last week, Major League Rugby first 15, and understandably so. He's great, 90 meters on 9 carries, a pair of tries, 8 additional points via 2 penalties and a conversion, 13 kicks for over 400 meters gained. That was really his welcome party to Major League Rugby, and he has continued today in the Lone Star State.
Houston will steal another lineout. What can they do with it? That clock is not on their side tonight. Off the boot of Marani.
Been incredibly impressed with the way DC has played in this second half. They've been composed. They cleaned up the handling errors, the penalties from the first half. They haven't made those mistakes. They've done it by and large with reserves. They've brought in a lot of changes, completely different front row that hasn't affected them. And you can even argue the scrum has been a little better than it was in the first half.
No steal this time for Houston. And after an accumulation of verbal warnings, the card comes out. Failure to release.
Referee Summers, he was slow to go to the pocket. It took a while.
Now a concern for Houston is not only losing at home, but if Mr. Robertson puts his boot to that ball again and splits the uprights, all of a sudden you're missing out on perhaps even a bonus point.
You're exactly right. This may well do it as Magno, the vice captain, heads to the bin, and that'll be the evening for Uruguay's all-time leader in caps.
Houston will be down a man for the finish of this one here at home at AVEVA.
Robertson has a chance to, by all accounts, give Old Glory their first ever road victory.
This would put them up by 9. Again, denying Houston a loss bonus from finishing within 7. And the kick is true. Jason Robertson. And that right boot will travel.
He's perfect. 4 for 4 in penalty goals. 1 for 1 in conversions. He's outstanding. I say that, he missed 1, but the one he missed, it came off the post and the crossbar. And the one previous to that, he hit off the post, so give him a little credit.
Now the question is, can they get Windsor back within range to salvage a point? A try and a conversion aren't going to do you much good in the grand scheme of things. As this gets thrown into touch, back over to Old Glory. Line out for Old Glory.
They just need to take it cleanly. No reason to worry about anything else. Just get this feed in, come down with it. Peterson does just that.
They can put it into touch, and they can put themselves back in the win column. Old Glory DC with a winning streak, thanks to their first victory outside of the nation's capital. And when you wake up tomorrow and take a look at the table, this expansion side in DC is going to be making a nice climb towards the top.
They did it. It was defense. They held Houston off the board for the final 50 minutes of the game. We were tied early on, and then Old Glory able to pull away by and large the part of Jason Robertson. His boot does it again.
Both teams came into tonight with 5 points in the table, right in the heart of the standings. Add 4 more to the resume for Old Glory. Houston will be shut out. As we step aside, when we come back, a chance to chat with some of the victors. Jason Robertson finds all 9 second-half points for Old Glory DC. That's your difference here tonight on the road in Houston. He's our man of the match, and he's joined by Isabella.
Congratulations on the win. What's the biggest takeaway for this team on this win tonight?
More importantly, getting one on the road. We had a tough start down in NOLA week 1. So to get a win on the road down here in Houston, backing up a good performance like last week would show we're not just a one-game pony. You know, there's more to us than that. So yeah, really good to get a win on the road.
Yeah, what does that say? This is your 2nd win in a row for this team. What's going right for this team?
Once we start building phases and holding the ball, we're really putting teams under pressure. We've got some really good backs, exciting backs. So yeah, once they get the ball, early ball, we're making good game lines. So yeah.
It was an extremely close game. What was the biggest difference maker for you guys in the second half?
I just think we were composed when we needed to be. We played field position. We had a bit of a win second half, so we used that to our advantage. And yeah, we came away with points when we were in the 22, which was crucial at the time of the game.
Well, congratulations on the win.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Isabella, thank you again. It's a match that produced 4 points. They all belong to Old Glory. A reminder, they will take their winning ways to San Antonio to take on Austin next weekend at Toyota Field in the Alamo City Military Appreciation. That will be the inaugural Cuisine Solutions Cup. Looking forward to that one, of course, as well, as we'll have it right here. Well, for Kip McConico and Isabella Radovan, big thanks to our entire crew at AVEVA Stadium. What a night, a classic unfolding. First ever meeting between these two sides, and certainly the stars we expected to shine did so, and did so brightly, including that right boot of Jason Robertson. He guides Old Glory to the victory, including a second half shutout of Houston. 22-13 your final tonight.